Perfect segue. Welcome, everybody. This is the Streaming Wars first ever live webinar, as you can tell, and we're going to cut through noise, dive into the biggest trends, and get real about the future of streaming. And I'm Kirby Grimes, your moderator, founder of the Streaming Wars. And if you're here, you probably don't just watch the streaming industry, you're helping reshape it. Thank you for that. We have a packed session, and I brought some of the brightest minds in the business. I brought two Scotts, only one Scott's here. Hopefully we get him soon. And before we jump in, I just want to talk about the streaming wars for a minute. My mission, our mission, is to be a media company, and to me that means doing more than just written articles. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but what that means for me is more video content, more forms of media, pushing boundaries, expanding how we cover the space, and drive meaningful conversations like this one. So this journey starts today, and I want to give a huge shout out to Looper Insights for making this happen. Looper's doing good work, and so I couldn't think of a better partner to do this first one with. And Lucas, as a founder and CEO of Looper Insight, what's now like 8 years, right?
Yep. Yeah, you're counting.
Can you give us a 30,000-foot view of what you guys do, and then also how you're helping your clients and partners navigate the streaming landscape?
Sure. G'day, everyone. Lucas Bertrand from Looper Insights. So we're a company that tracks the placement of all content and apps and soon to be channels, including fast channels, across connected TV environments. So mobile, smart TVs, set-top boxes or MVPDs, games consoles, streaming devices, sticks and dongles and all of that. And we do that in 25 countries, 250 different platforms that we're tracking. And our clients are typically global streamers, Hollywood studios, local distributors and broadcasters. Everyone's a streamer now, right? And in our world, you're all fighting for the same digital shelf space, right? So how do you get the most prominence, the high value placement on the shelf, so that your viewers are going to see your fabulous content? They're going to want to subscribe, or they want to engage with your app or your channel, and that's really the name of the game. So what we do is we audit and track all the visibility of all these content channels and apps, but we also give it a score. So it's called media placement value, and it's a way to understand the value of the prominence. Homepage prominence worth a lot more than 3 pages down. So the closer you are to the consumer, the higher the score. And this is a metric that's now adopted by global streamers, studios, and interestingly now regulators, which is really interesting. So that's us. Thanks, Kirby.
Absolutely. Just give me one sec here. Sorry. So talking to Scott Murrow from Stars, he has IT on his way, and we all know how that's going to go. IT is going to probably say user error. We'll get him joining here shortly. But the rest of the starting lineup, let's go with Scott Olakowski, co-founder and chief product officer of Plex. Plex just isn't another streaming service. It's become a central hub for content aggregation, discovery, social interaction. And while many in the space are copying Netflix, Plex is charting its own course, bringing a fresh perspective to the space. Next up, we have Mark Rashba, EVP of Partnerships at Cineverse. And Cineverse operates in an unrivaled scale, distributing over something like 70,000 premium films, series, podcasts, which there's been a lot of conversation about podcasts this week with Netflix and YouTube. And basically, if there's a fast channel or streaming service out there, Mark and Cineverse probably has a hand in it somewhere, making him the perfect person for us to riff on what's going on in content distribution land. Scott Murrow, will hopefully get him soon. So let's get this party going. I want to share my screen real quick. While I do that, what's up, fellas?
We're good.
All right.
Excited.
All right. Let's get into it. My windows are a little wonky right now. All right. We're gonna try to get those back. Let's Apologies. Sorry guys, just have all my tabs just flickering right in front of me. All right, here we go.
You want to kick us off with a question while you're pulling that up, and
Well, what I wanted to do is I want to really just kind of cover this streaming forward report that Looper did, which is really kind of the basis of what we're talking about. So let me just share my screen again. But these screens have finally chilled out a little bit. All right. Again, we're live. All right. So as I mentioned, so Looper just put out pretty recently the streaming forward guide, basically gathering insights from conversations with 72 different executives across streaming services, broadcasters, and platforms. And so anybody that hasn't checked this out, I invite you to check it out, of course, after the webinar. But these are what you're seeing on screen are 10 of the big themes and topics and predictions for 2020. Some of these things happen in 24, but we'll see more of it continue in 25. There's a lot to unpack here. So basically, I want to kind of take that list and condense it into these really 6 themes. I don't think we even have time to talk about AI. If we do, cool. But I want to talk about bundling. I want to talk about deals and promotions. I want to talk about what's going on in the fast market. Obviously, we had a big event on Sunday with the Super Bowl 59 being on Tubi on Fast. I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about sports live events. I want to talk about hybrid business models. And so that's our discussion for today. And so yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, let me, Lucas, I don't know if you wanted to riff on this, but basically I wanted to just kind of start it with you and talk about bundling and hear what you make sense of what I think everybody's kind of referring to as the great rebundling and where do you see things going next? What's the big shift on the horizon?
Yeah, look, we see a number of bundle types that are coming to market and being pushed. So clearly there's the bundle within a media company, like you see with the Hulu and Disney and ESPN, which is relatively simple to pull off. There's the bundle within the super aggregator, like within a Prime Video, like the Prime Video channels. There's that type of bundle. But where we see some really interesting things happening is around looking at bundles across different media types. Certainly, as a consumer, I would love to pay one great fixed price and get everything, right? I want my music, I want my film and TV, I want my video games, I want my ebooks. I mean, that would just be a beautiful thing, wouldn't it? Maybe even then other services. And that's actually one of the things that we saw last year was the stickiest service was actually or bundle was a broadband plus media bundle. We see that with mobile phone operators doing media bundles as well. These are really super sticky, and we're seeing that becoming more and more of a trend. I read a report actually from Omdia the other day that suggested that they think it will top out about 25% of all subscriptions will be within those bundles, and well, that's still a lot of market to go for outside of that. And they're not quite there yet, but I think that's going to be a really interesting development, is to see how these packages are put together, across not just different media types, but different service types.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's good. So on that, Mark, as kind of the chief making deals happen officer, EVP of partnership is obviously video to video bundles make a lot of sense. Stars is probably doing the most noise right now in terms of bundles, and hopefully we get Scott from Stars on here. But what about? And I look at services like Plex, less of a bundle, but more of a kind of becoming this lifestyle type of service, kind of all encompassing. It's more than just a streaming service. And I look at what the opportunity is with what Lucas is saying with partnering with things outside of video. So video with non-video bundles. What other industries outside of video are you and Cineverse looking at in terms of these bundle partnerships?
Can't hear you, Mark.
You're
Okay.
Mark.
That was just the test. It's a tricky landscape, right? Because it started a few years ago when you looked at what some of the video services did with Spotify, especially targeting like college markets to kind of get in front of that. But we have looked at this. We are a player in very unique target markets. Hey, welcome, Scott. So what we're going after are typically not only bundling our own services together, but we've been looking at and been working with some third-party partners as well. We do as much as we can with our in-house services and our podcast network, where we're going to bundle like we've done with Screenbox, our horror brand. But one of the things we've done in the past is we worked with AARP, believe it or not, to target and reach out how you can bundle. If you're already, it's a little bit of a unique kind of model because you already have membership to AARP, but it's sort of bundled with our service that you're able to get access to things. So we're exploring that kind of domain, like how do we go after other services that are complementary, things that make sense and provide real value, because we're all in this business to kind of continue to get the viewership and audience, but we're also trying to understand it from the consumer lens and make sure that we're adding things that would make sense. So food delivery, the DoorDashes of the world, things like that, where people can save and everyday things they're already doing. So we're exploring that, and we'll have maybe a few new deals to announce probably by the end of the year in that space.
Nice. That's really cool. Like if I'm watching Terrifier 3, I'm probably getting some food delivered to the house. So it's a perfect combo. Makes a lot of sense. All right, everybody, let's welcome, last but not least, Scott Murrow, industry veteran who knows and understands the landscape because he's been there from cable to streaming. And I go back, way back with Scott. We used to work together at Float Left, and I was once a noob in the media entertainment industry. And Scott helped me make sense of a world that many times just quite frankly doesn't make any sense at all. And I'll always be grateful for that. But Scott eventually left me to lead the charge at Stars, where he oversees the company's OTT distribution and marketing efforts. Welcome, Scott. Nice
Thanks for
entrance.
having me. It's always fun to have a snafu with IT, but glad to be here. Thank you.
Better late than never, and it just shows this is actually live and not just simulated live. So we're talking about bundles, Lucas, and we looked at kind of started the bundling conversation, and just obviously, I mean, Stars is the epitome of like bundles. Like there's a bundle. You just recently had the AMC Plus. You have, and that was with Vizio, I believe. You had BT bundle, another bundle with Max on Prime Video. There's a lot of bundling happening. And I look at these bundles, video to video bundles, makes a lot of sense. But as we're talking about though, what other industries beyond video are you thinking about that makes sense for streaming services to possibly partner with?
Yeah, I think right when I joined, Mark was talking about some of these complementary services. I think we're in a subscription service environment in not just the industry, but consumers are interested in subscription services like DoorDash or Uber One. I mean, there's so many subscription services, even pet services. And so are there opportunities to expand your reach by providing discount opportunities for people who are already signing up for subscription services? So more of like a value add component to that, and expanding outside the entertainment kind of traditional bundle as we know it, the ones you mentioned for sure. We are obviously entertainment first. We believe in the traditional and OTT space for sure, but expanding our reach and finding consumers wherever they're going is a way to increase our total addressable market, which I think is important in a crowded space like there is today. That we need to figure out ways to stand out.
And if I gave you one choice, is bundling more of a play for customer acquisition or more of a play for retention? If you had to choose one, where would you go with that?
Do I have to choose one?
I guess you have to choose one.
Well, you got to get them in the door first, right? So I think acquisition is critical by providing a value for the consumer. I think the consumers are looking for value, but I will say that retention is just as important because you're by bundling, you're essentially doubling your content, and doubling your value add for the consumer. That you want to make sure that they're seeing the value of, maybe they watch something on BET or BritBox and they've never sampled Outlander. They've heard about Outlander,
Hmm.
so now they have the opportunity as part of the bundle to watch it because it's part of their service.
Yeah, I love this idea of sampling. That hopefully we could get to that a little later. Scott Olakowski, you guys had a bundle with a bundled sort of arrangement with Title. Can you walk through that and which is now kind of sunset, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, titles kind of changed direction a bit in their business, and that evaporated. But for many years, we had a bundle of our Plex Pass, which is not a content subscription service. It's more of a software subscription service to some of our personal media capabilities. The ability to use our over-the-air DVR and the live TV integration, and maybe the sync of content to your phone and stuff like that. So we had a bunch of subscribers for Plex Pass, and then we did a deal with Tidal where we were able to resell and bundle the Tidal subscription with that. And for us, it was a convenience, right? The Tidal stuff integrated with our system in a pretty unique way. And we were able to, kind of play with the dollars to make it a very attractive bundle, right? So it was a value play as well as so for us, it was new user acquisition. And at the same time, it was like, hey, you could get Tidal over here for this price, or you could get it here in this bundle. And it was almost the same price, and you were getting two subscriptions. So it was a really effective promotional tool for us, and it did help on retention as well. So we're going to be exploring, doing some more stuff like that. And over time, we will, look at bundling some video services on Plex as well. We've kind of been focused a lot on our AVOD or ad-supported streaming stuff, AVOD and FAST. So it's almost the other direction. Don't pay us a penny, just come on in. But I think as we expand, we added TVOD early last year. We will eventually, start looking at doing some bundling as well.
So what you're saying that possibly in the future you can incorporate services with Stars, with Screenbox, with Dove Channel, and so forth.
That's the goal. The goal would be
Possibly.
to hit a critical mass of stuff and integrate it into an experience. I mean, there's obviously different ways this could work, but one of the things we'd like to do is, instead of having to go to 8 different apps like you just described, would it be possible to have that in a single place, so I don't have to kind of go through the app jungle, if you will, and it kind of integrates a little bit more with my personalization and recommendations and across these services, right? Because I think having a holistic view of a consumer's interests is where we're focused. We're really trying to connect people with content, with entertainment, and having a more perfect view of what they're interested in can help us do that better.
Nice. So I want to talk about within the bundled experience, the customer experience, and what's great about where we've come as an industry. And the whole time it's been about watching what we want, when we want, and that's been realized. But now, which is interesting, we can buy it how we want. So if I look at Stars, for example, I can buy Stars obviously through stars.com, the Stars app. I could get it through Prime Video. I could get it through YouTube, YouTube TV, Hulu, Apple TV channels, Roku channel, and about a dozen others. So what I want to talk about is kind of that wholesale experience versus the retail experience. And I guess if we're talking about Stars, that start with Stars, and with all these, Scott, with all these SKUs, the Stars in the market, both as the bundly, and it's also interesting when you talk about this. Stars is now a bundler, and Plex is now bundling other services. BritBox was the first one, and kind of under your owned and operated app. But back to the question, with all these SKUs across retail and wholesale, what's the approach to managing all these products, and how do you think about positioning Stars as this whole bundle ecosystem evolves? And does it matter where they sign up as long as they get it?
I think each platform is unique. So how consumers consume their content, it's giving them the choice to subscribe directly to our retail app and downloading the app, or if they prefer to have all their subscriptions within an environment like a Prime Video or Hulu or YouTube, just ensuring that again, it's all about customer choice and opportunities to sign up. And I think working with our wholesale partners, certainly, it becomes more of a partnership and marketing opportunity to highlight key content and work together to promote the bundle, to promote, specific content on the platform. That really, I mean, quite honestly, in our industry, it's the content that's the sexy part, right? And that's what people want. And so making sure that your content is wherever consumers are going to consume and purchase the content is the most important piece. So, giving that consumer the option to, buying it through the retail stores or through their preferred, wholesale partner, I think is really important.
Lucas, you mentioned the other day that there was a show. I can't remember what show it was, but you said you tried to get something on Discovery Plus the other day and it wasn't available. Uh, does that sound
It was
familiar?
the Dakar, like the Paris Dakar enduro.
Okay. So what was going on
Uh,
there?
Well, look, it's the typical consumer experience, right? I go onto I think I've got an Apple TV connected to a Samsung or something, and I'm trying to find this. I know it's on, right? I'm a fan. I'm willing to pay. Just where the hell is this? And the experience is just crap, right? I can't. There's no universal search. I'm going through apps trying to find it. And eventually I find, oh, it's on Discovery Plus. Obviously, I use my mobile to do that. All right, cool. I go on to Discovery Plus on Amazon channels. I get on there, and what do I find? But like this really shallow layer of content and no Dakar. Like it was like, what? I've just signed up. I paid the money. Like, where's the content? It says it's on there. Turns out that's the skinny version of Discovery Plus. And so I'm like, so back out of there. I request a refund. Then I've got to go and download the app. I download the app and pay the 30 quid. It turns out to watch that. And it's just like, come on, we've got to solve this, right? We've got to make this a better experience. I mean, I actually think bundling could be part of that solution. If there was technical integration, and I know Scott, you'll probably say this is that's going to be really, really hard, right? But that's what really needs to happen is we've got to have some kind of universal search that's really integrated and it makes it simple for the consumer to subscribe to whatever services they want, how they want, as you say, Scott.
Kirby, I would suggest or propose that these are conflicting interests, right? We would all probably prefer from a business point of view to have the D2C app experience and be working directly with the consumer and audiences because we can get the insights and better improve the services and so forth. But it may not be the best approach or an easy approach, certainly, to find that. The other thing that Scott was just saying, it's interesting because most of the big utility companies, the big apps or the big services, the early players in the space, they're ubiquitous. They have everything for everybody. And people will typically default to one or two of those. So the way you then get these other services, any of our services out there, is either going to be with a signature type of series that people fall in love with, like an Outlander, which has that crazy fan base. And having worked on the series way back at Sony, I know these women, their age, many of them are pet owners, cats specifically. I did the focus groups in homes. They are core fans. They buy 4 or 5 volumes of the same novel, never mind when it came out on Blu-ray, and probably want to subscribe because any new things that are dropped by Stars are great, and it's well worth their investment to have that service. And then there's people more like a little bit more like our game is that we target these really specific demos like clusters like Dove, Screenbox, Comedy Dynamics, these fans that just want the interactive experience. They're not really looking for any specific show or movie. They just know those services typically will, deliver for them. And it's a little bit, different. And how we go to market with those, again, whether it's wholesale, retail, it depends on what's usually best for the consumer. That is how we typically start.
Yeah, and I love the idea, the option of a consumer to use an analogy here, shop at the grocery store and get something directly from, or get something through an Amazon single bill, single UI. I get it. That makes a lot of sense. And then maybe you want to go to the boutique store or the specialty store, the Stars Direct or Screenbox or Dove Channel Direct. But it is interesting what Lucas is talking about, and I've done some research in the past on these are very different versions of the service. They are the service, but they're different. And just curious why there are like the anomaly Lucas mentioned it. I know Stars has a lot of content. I don't think that's all on the aggregate versions of the service. And so why the difference? Can you help make sense of why there's a difference? Like if I'm signing up to Stars on Amazon, I think I'm getting Stars, and I am, but maybe I'm not getting everything. And if I came in on something like Lucas mentioned for a specific title to sign up for something that's not there, well, that's not great for anybody involved in that buy process.
Yeah, I'll say that, if you're buying Stars, you're getting our full library of services, no matter where you buy it from. And I think it's really important that if a subscriber is paying $10.99, they should have access to every single one of the titles that we have within license. And we do that with all of our partners, all of our retail storefronts. So it's ubiquitous what you get for what you pay for. I think to your point about kind of the user experience a little bit, our because we built the Stars app in-house, we're able to do a lot of testing, a lot of customization of like the swim lanes and highlight specific content or create custom swim lanes that are specific to like this week Captain America is coming out. We've got a Captain America title. So how do we highlight our action titles? It's a lot easier to do that through our app versus working with other partners, although our wholesale partners, there is some level of customization that we can do with them now too. So it's the ability to really connect with that user so that helping them find something that's relevant or something that they want to watch is really critical to holding their attention. So I guess I would respond back to Lucas's frustration. I know there are light versions of products out there, depending on their deals with other partners. But when you purchase Stars, you're getting all of it.
Yeah, I think you guys are fighting the good fight on that one for sure. But I'll make two other quick comments. One, back to Lucas's thing. We have with our Discover product, we have basically every movie and TV show ever made. We've got, if you go to watch.plex TV, you've got universal search, you have a universal watch list, and we have universal where to watch links. So we can deep link you into those services, which internally at our company, as we were doing our AVA and our fast stuff, some people were like, why are we sending people other places? But it is fundamentally one of the most frustrating problems. And we believe if we can solve that, search, discover, and connect, component of this, that it is very powerful. And it is one of the most popular things that we do. So it is, we've felt that pain ourselves and we decided to try to solve that. And then what I'll say back to you, Mark, when you said, kind of there's like this little tug of war on the business models or, kind of the needs. I think there's a way to kind of get a little bit of both here these days. I mean, it sounds like Scott kind of alluded to it. But when we did like Tidal, they got full visibility into, what people were streaming. So there was no data being held back. There was no black box there. We were able to promote stuff that they wanted promoted. We were pulling their swim lanes, their rails and stuff were coming right into our apps. So we had that level of integration. And if you signed up for the service in Plex, you could use your account. You had a title account, so you could use the title app as well. If you had a title account, you could link it with Plex. So it was kind of this two-way street where the data was flowing the way it needed to, and the promotional capabilities were where they needed to be as well. So I don't think it necessarily has to be mutually exclusive. I just don't think a lot of the bigger distributors have. I think they're trying to covet some of the data and some of the experience stuff. So maybe that doesn't have to be that way is all I'll say.
There's hope.
All right. Hey, Lucas, another thing on the streaming forward report, we're dealing promotions and we're seeing streaming services, not just video, but of course we're going to focus on video, pull out all the stops, run flash sales, extended trials, and we talked about bundling. From where you sit, are these deals and promotions a customer acquisition sprint, or do you think these are reshaping longer term retention strategies? And what do you see the bigger play here being?
Well, yeah, certainly to your question to Scott Morrow, pick one. I don't think you should. I mean, it's definitely we're seeing more and more of these, and from a customer acquisition point of view, I think they're really critical. The value play, I think, is really critical. Otherwise, you're going to run out of subscriptions in the household. I also think that having a variety of models, I know, the hybrid models are becoming more and more popular. I think offering, I think, Scott, you also mentioned offering customers something that really fits them and their needs and their budgets is a big opportunity here. And that's retention as well, right? I mean, you watch that one show, if it doesn't cost you that much more to keep it, then you've got a better chance of retaining that customer. And obviously there's the promotions required to keep the customer. You've got to keep putting that great new product in front of them to keep them engaged. But bundles, I think by definition should be a stickier proposition. That said, I guess commercially you've got to give up some margin, and so that's the sacrifice.
Yeah, I'll just say that I think bundles. To your point, Lucas, it's you have to give up something to get something, and hopefully for a lifetime value of that subscriber over time, equals a stickier customer, right? And Mark mentioned the Outlander customers, as we know, like that customer is very sticky. They're willing to stay on for a longer period of time. So offering them, a BritBox bundle kind of makes sense for that demographic where they can, ingest, some great British crime dramas or thrillers that really kind of pair really nicely with our Outlander audience. We've got other shows that target that female audience that, again, are a little stickier than our power audience. So, trying to figure out, it's like a big puzzle, and trying to figure out and shoehorn people into these different bundles, offers, flash sales, using a flash sale to get volume in. And that gives you an opportunity to get them to convert to full price or retain those subscribers for a longer period of time. So that getting them in for a movie and then having them watch a power or something like that. So, there are all these little, things that we can try to do to, I guess, juice the business. Save offers if people are canceling, give them an opportunity to save that customer with an offer, win them back. So there's a number of different things we can do that are out there that are certainly helpful.
Kirby,
I'd
we're
love-
also we're not fixated on bundles alone, right? For us to get people into the brand, subscription and bundling's a component, but we obviously also offer, the fast versions, which are different programming lineups to get people to, try it. And if we also, of course, have AVOD options that are out there with some of the signature series spread out a little bit across our O&Os. And then YouTube as well. Like we have commercial YouTube versions of all of our channels now to let people get a flavor of what this channel's about and the kind of content. And then the premium stuff, the things we window internally, they'll stay in those subscription services to move people who are interested and intrigued, into that option. So we're bundling to spread the word, but we're also, opening up the door to a lot of the different content available under that brand to make sure we're growing the total base.
Nice. I love the phrase "juice the business." I'm going to use that. And speaking of juice the business and looking at a business and a portion of Stars or any media company, there's a data team, there's a retention team, and I can't and all this talking of bundles and flash sales and getting somebody to maybe win back to a service. I can't help but to think of a possible scenario, and then this is really open to anybody that has a response here. But let's say a customer is originally signed up to, I'll just say Stars or Screenbox, but it's really any service that's available, kind of in these multiple formats, retail and wholesale. So they're signed up for this service, but they churn out. But they're pulled in. The reason they churn out because they're pulled in through a promotion that an aggregator is doing. So let's say maybe they unsubscribe from Stars because there's a deal with Stars on Amazon. So like your data team, and again, this is open for everybody, not just Stars, but like your data team showing we just lost some people, but maybe it didn't. Maybe they're just getting it somewhere else. But like now you're in this data black box. How do you win back somebody that you kind of never lost, but you did? There's like they're still getting it. Like, do you think about this? I can't help but to just think of that scenario for your data teams. And I know we're not the data teams on this call, but just curious if that's like is in anybody's headspace. And and the answer could be no, guys. But this has to be a problem happening.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Mark.
I was like, we're trying to win people back with eggs. We're going to bundle with eggs right now because eggs are so expensive and hard to get that we think if we can just offer fresh eggs delivered. I think look, everyone's crunchy. That's a great way to do it in a more traditional manner. Like, you do want to fight and keep as many customers and members as long as you can. And that recommendation coming from that group would typically be a little bit more of the traditional marketing, like win them back, target them very specifically with, the marketing in your Google ad campaign or anything else you might do with GAM. But we're also looking for these broader opportunities. A lot of what we talked about at the beginning of this call is about these bundles that introduce it, bring people in. The retention side, you've got to have the content, I think, to keep people engaged. You've got to have a two-way dialogue. Once they leave, it's a tough win back, in my opinion, because they've already kind of made this decision. They went through the work. It's a little hard actually to cancel a service. I mean, it takes you 5 minutes, 10 minutes sometimes. But once they've done that, it's a harder, I think, a steeper hill to climb. So I think between the good programming and having that two-way dialogue, that's a better way. Prevention's a better way than to me and to us than trying to win back somebody who's made a conscious decision to drop the service.
I think part of that, just riffing off of what Mark said, I think it's hard to attribute, saving that customer, because if you're spending money to retain that customer and they don't cancel, it's hard to quantify versus an acquisition. You spend money to acquire a subscriber, you're able to attribute that subscriber to that acquisition, but you spend money to retain that customer, there's not really a one-for-one, right? You assume that customer is staying because you targeted them with email or however you target those customers, and then they decided to stay for whatever
Well,
reason.
isn't that cost acquisition dollars, right? You're going to bring in content that's going to keep them staying, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a different way to look at it, but for sure.
Well, one last question before we get off the deals and promotions topic. And Plex is, like I said, I led with Plex is different from everybody else, and that's obviously a good thing. And Plex Pass is not one-to-one with streaming services. It's a very specific in what it is, what it does. But what's interesting here is Plex Pass, there's a lifetime subscription. I wish Netflix had a lifetime subscription. It will never have one, and that's okay. But just curious, Scott, on running with PlexPass and the lifetime model are more like, what are users opting into? Obviously, the total cost of ownership over time, you go lifetime, but are people, or does the monthly plans still dominate?
Uh, it's a great question. I'll give you a little background on why it exists for a second first. When we started the company back in 2010, we had just launched, like in 2011, the PlexPass thing, and it started to show promise, and we actually got the company profitable on that. But we did have, like, early on, some payments to make on some debt that we had. And if we didn't make that, like, we would have had trouble making payroll and all this other stuff. So the lifetime was actually a solve, a very temporary sort of solve that then stuck around. We had a lot of people back then that said, please offer some sort of lifetime thing, they'll definitely pay it. And it's been very good to us, but we definitely will do sales on it, and do that. It's definitely a sacrifice for some of the recurring revenue, but it's a significant amount of revenue quickly, right? And it's been very effective for us, and we'll continue to offer it because it is primarily a software service that we're offering. The margins are higher. It's a little different type of thing. We've built a lot of this technology, and now we're getting the payback on it. So it's different than having to do what Stars is doing, or what Cineverse is doing, having to constantly create new content just to keep people coming back. It's a different model.
Right. Appreciate that, Scott. So we have Scott Lukowski. We have about 15 minutes here. So what I want to do is we're just going to kind of combine what I want to talk about next here, Lucas, because I want you to lead us off here is fast. I wanted to also talk about kind of hybrid monetization. So really, let's talk about monetization. And while we talk about fast, I want to mention the Super Bowl here and what Tubi was able to do. But I want to load you here with a screen grab real quick. If I can just share my screen for a moment. Share. All right. All right, here we are. All right, you should all be seeing my screen here. So just real quick, just recapping what Tubi and Fox, of course, is able to do. Super Bowl 59 on Sunday generated 126 million. It was 136 million. Big chunk of, well, a good chunk relative of those being on Tubi, 13.6 million viewers here. So Lucas, you guys, I'm sorry, one sec. All right, here we go. Lucas, you guys gathered some data around the Super Bowl, and it's actually something that you didn't just do this year, but you've kind of been doing this for a while. Can you walk us through this screen grab?
Yeah, so basically we did on Sunday we were covering all the devices in the market and looking at the different promotions that were happening. And so one of the key conclusions was that Tubi did a better job than Paramount Plus did last year. And in terms of the media placement value scores, they were pretty off the chart. So they were being picked up both on the paid placements that they were doing with different partners, but obviously getting a ton of editorial placements as well, right? And all of those editorial placements across those UIs, they add up to performance. So the connection between the placement and the performance was driving really big numbers on our side.
Lucas, who are these people that streamed it on Tubi versus are they people they're all cord cutters? Or are they remote that they couldn't access it on linear? Like who do you think those 13 million people are?
I think you're probably right. We don't know exactly who they are, but I think they are predominantly cord cutters who are, going for, a free model. I mean, it's such a good price point, to watch such a premium program. It's just like such a no-brainer. And I think the question for Tubi in terms of the payoff, well, one, they've got the infrastructure to pull this off, right? So the Fox infrastructure is clearly super tested. They do a lot of games, NBA, they've got various sports that they're doing regularly. So that's kind of battle hardened, that tech. And so, we saw with Netflix and some of their recent efforts, it's really difficult to make that work. They had super low latency. I think it was like 26-second latency. So that's just like a really effective and great consumer experience. So, why not go for free to access it? And then the question is, how many of those customers will stick around and keep going back to Tubi? I'm pretty bullish on it.
Yeah. And no doubt that was the play, is try to get people to stick around to the service. And a lot of them never heard of Tubi. Now they do. So that's part of what's going on here. But that as cool as hell as the Super Bowl is on Fast, let's not lose sight that the Super Bowl was owned or distributed by Fox this year, parent of Tubi. And if there's no Fox, there's no Tubi carrying the Super Bowl, right? So like basically Plex or Cineverse through any of your channels, you're not going to be carrying the Super Bowl anytime soon. But that doesn't take away from live
I mean,
sports.
maybe last year's Super Bowl.
Dude, fair. That's
because every one of the major linear broadcast networks that's going to have rights to it all now have a streaming version that they can do the same, right?
But regardless of Super Bowl, though, obviously that's a huge one. Like that's the pinnacle, at least in the United States, or one of them. But like live sports and fast, there's 8,000 sports. This is crude Kirby math played worldwide. Roughly 200 of those have international governing bodies of some sort. There's a lot of sports out there. What are you? And I know you both kind of play with sports and fast, and so walk us through the opportunity here.
I mean, I can just say, we're getting a lot more interest from advertisers to be able to target live events on the platform. We've got stuff like on the Ion channel, we have live WNBA games, and we have, the tennis channel will have live matches, and we'll have, on and on. We're getting more and more, seeing more and more live stuff come to all these fast channels. And now the advertisers are really saying, hey, we want to target the live stuff. We're actually willing to pay more for live content. So we're obviously keen to get more and more live stuff. I think it's, as soon as you start to see where the money is, people start to move that direction. And we're starting to see, a lot more interest from that side, which I think is driving, more and more folks to produce and develop more of that type of fast content.
Yeah, Kirby,
Scott,
we distribute sport. Sorry, go ahead, Lucas.
I was just going to say, Scott, do you have a direct ad sales team? Do you sell them directly yourself?
No, today we do everything programmatically, but we work through the partners that are out there kind of selling on behalf. So that's, they're out selling and they want to be able to target this stuff. So we're not doing it directly today. I mean, over time that will probably change as we grow, but today it's coming in through other partners, SSPs and stuff.
Yeah, we hear a lot about sports requests from a lot of platforms, and Scott's approach he just outlined is obviously the best. So we dig into that. We have more what I would call sports adjacent kind of content. So we have Real Madrid, but we don't get the live events. We get them, as Scott was alluding to, like a day or two later. We get all of the press conferences, the sports profile, the player profiles. And then we have a couple of other extreme sports type of things like GoPro. But when we do go and explore what's available for our weight class of a kind of business we are, what's available are typically going to be regional, like maybe AAA baseball sports. And then we get into this whole thing. You'd have to have a pretty major deal with a pretty large scale platform and make that worth your while. And advertisers are just not interested until you build that, that whole aggregation of potential games. If it's just one game in Oklahoma City, it's not going to mean anything, to an advertiser yet. So there's a little bit of a challenge, and the budgets that you're going to need to get into the live sports game, you're going to just keep a lot of people on the sidelines that would love to do it, but just can't afford it.
On the topic of ads and monetization, Scott Murrow, what I loved about the cable model is, I mean, I love, but you kind of hate it in the background. It's like you pay for the subscription, but you get ads on top of it. I always called it the double dip. And kind of the streaming industry has evolved to that as well. It's you have subscriptions, you have ads, and part of the big trend is everybody's kind of doubling up those models. So while everybody's getting into ad supported and subscriptions, Stars has pretty much remained a pure play subscription model, and that's not a bad thing. Just curious your stance on ad supported and fast, and whether that's an area that you've considered playing with or could happen one day, or what's the stance? Is there a stance?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's a very interesting space. We're definitely paying attention to it, but we're more focused on the subscription model and delivering a premium experience, commercial free to your point, to our subscribers. I think our content really plays to that commercial free aspect where movies and our originals are uninterrupted, right? So if you get a full 45 50 minute experience with our originals, or you get if the movie's an hour and a half, you get an uninterrupted movie. So we really believe that at least subscribers paying that premium price, they should be able to watch the content commercial free. So we are paying attention, but right now we're just focused on that subscription model.
All right, cool. And
I mean, a little note on that one is we've actually seen, we've gotten some great content from Lionsgate and others that was never broadcast. And when you start to try to put ads in on it, it sometimes just like it's amazing content that doesn't perform as well as stuff that was actually intended for broadcast with ads. So I think there is like this kind of tough transition, taking stuff that was like you said, Scott, in a premium experience, ad free, and then trying to make it work in a environment with ads can sometimes be a little tricky. So it's not
Yeah.
just like, oh, we're just going to throw ads in here and it's going to work. I don't know if that's would even be we've seen some challenges with it, I'll say.
Yeah.
It probably and there's transactional and plat. Oh no. Hopefully I come back here. Hello, hello, hello. I think I'm back, right? All right, cool. Yeah, we'll just want to kind of cap this conversation on monetization models, not just ad supported, not just subscription. I know Plex, you're doing stuff with transactional, but beyond those kind of three mainstay monetization models, I want to reference a service that was out for a few years, couple years, Strum or Stroom. Basically, it was a credit-based system. It's like the class pass for streaming, which I thought was pretty cool. You pay a monthly fee, and you get credits to use the sample. Back to sampling, we're talking about bundling and allowing to sample other services like BritBox. And basically, rather than have to subscribe to each service individually, you can basically use your credits against different content. And I think they had 50 content partners libraries, which I thought was pretty cool, pretty innovative. Company ultimately went under, and I don't know if that's a result of the model or some other factors, but nonetheless, the model's cool. Have you guys looked beyond those three mainstay monetization models or heard about others exploring alternative models? Like, is there something beyond? And it doesn't have to be a substitute, but maybe in addition to ad-supported subscription or transactional?
I mean, we've definitely been, we're always kind of trying to come up with innovative things and stuff. And that model that you just described is an interesting one. I think the problem, what we've seen a little bit is kind of going back to what Mark was saying, is that like there's these folks that are like, we're going to go deep into a particular, style of, type of content or particular fandom. The sampling thing across just a smorgasbord is not that, right? It's like almost like weirdly the opposite of that. And I think it's just a challenge, unless the quality of the content is so high, which they just never were able to achieve. And when we've looked at it, it seemed like it was going to be pretty tough to achieve. Then the smorgasbord, paying for the smorgasbord, it just does not seem like it's a winning model. So I don't think the model is necessarily going to be dead. We see it, you see Medium, you see other places that have these models where it works. So I think it could work, but I don't know, you would require some really quality content to be playing in that sandbox.
Kirby, sorry, I had to go off the video because I'm caught some of your Wi-Fi issue. I assume you can still hear me. We're looking
Yeah.
in social media. There's a lot of things going on in other markets, and in social media, there's things like pay as you go, or you tease with a lot of initial content, and then you get them, and then you pay after that. So there's a lot of those things that we're kicking the tires on, but there's nothing that's been announced. Um, and it could work in our space. It's certainly worth placing a bet in that concept to test it out a little bit. Um, but I would say I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the models that exist. I just think we have to come up with better solutions of making things easier ultimately for the consumer and the viewer.
And I'll speak to, kind of Star's sampling kind of philosophy is that, we make our first episodes available across any platform that will receive our content. That's mostly working with our wholesale partners, both on the traditional and OTT side. And then we do, stunts, whereas, right now we're sampling season 1 of Raising Canaan, which is part of our Power universe. We have our next season 4, coming up early March. So an opportunity to work with our partners who take our sampling content to build a fan base who's never sampled that before. So offering the first full season, get them into the story, and then they have to convert to watch season 2, season 3, leading up to season 4. So they're going to be seeing outdoor marketing, kind of that upper funnel marketing start to ramp up, end of February, that will kind of give that consumer that, like, connect the dots, like, oh, I could watch this for free. I can watch the next season. I really liked it on, pick your platform. And then you create an opportunity to, market other content to them. So we use sampling as an opportunity to get them into a show before a premiere to create a fan out of them. And then one other thing I think Mark and Scott were both mentioning was different kind of models we're looking at, and especially on our retail side, we've found some success around multi-month plans where it's 3 months upfront or 6 months upfront, and you pay a specific price, and so that certainly helps with that retention, that month 1 retention, where somebody signs up for a free trial, they maybe pay for 1 month and they churn out. This eliminates that month 1 churn, which is always that hardest month to convert that subscriber to. So having a multi-month at a little bit of a discount, whether it's 3 months or 6 months, a little more palatable than an annual plan. Although we are doing annual plans and looking at that, we've seen some success around that. But signing a customer up for 3 months or 6 months clip, I think we've found some success around that.
Nice. All right, so we're Lucas, do you want to any final word to wrap us up here?
Look,
Not required.
In terms of models, I think what everyone has really discussed here, and I think there will be some old school models like pay-per-view will be coming back in in particular for those big events. I'd be happy to pay pay-per-view for the Super Bowl out of the UK here. So yeah, look, I think it's really about giving consumers access to content at price points or within models that suit them, so they don't end up as pirates.
100%. All right, guys. So I'm gonna close this here out, and for you, you guys, Lucas, Mark, Scott, and Scott, want to send you a special thanks. Or I'm not sending you anything. I'm giving you a special thanks. And certainly for nothing else, being open with your strategies. There was a lot of cool stuff discussed that I feel privileged that you guys were able to do this on this platform. And Plex, open to being a bundler. So that's definitely worth noting. And yeah, as far as partnerships and bundles, the next one you see might be with a pet subscription, or might be with an airline, or something outside of the video industry. Also, just we got to make things incredibly simple. It's a confusing space. It's a convenient space, but it's ultimately very confusing. Being able to offer products based on your competitor, or offer products based on your customer's lifestyle. If they want it direct, cool. If they want it somewhere else, cool. Be the grocery store, be the boutique, be there for the customer. You got to juice the business. And so I want to thank everybody that's sat around and listen to us talk for an hour. Appreciate you as well. If you have any questions about anything you heard today, send me an email. If you don't have my email, we're going to send a follow-up to those that you had joined. The email's in there. So yeah, look for that. Everybody, guys, attendance, everybody have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you
Thank
all so
you,
much.
Kirby.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirby.
Kirby.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Great.
you.
Good day.